The alarm on Admiral Gregory Mason's watch beeped softly. It was time for another public humiliation. He took a deep breath and walked to the main control room of Earth Defense Headquarters. The large underground facility buzzed with activity as staff prepared for the incoming transmission. "Status report," Mason said, his voice steady despite the anger building inside him. Lieutenant Samantha Boyd looked up from her station. "The aliens are broadcasting on all channels again, sir. Every TV, radio, and digital screen on Earth will show their message in exactly 2 minutes." Mason nodded and straightened his uniform. His gray hair and lined face showed the strain of 15 years dealing with the Galactic Confederation. 15 years of mockery, restrictions, and being treated like children who couldn't be trusted with the real power of the stars. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The massive wall display flickered to life. The face that appeared made several new staff members gasp. The alien called Zarthal had green scaly skin, 4 yellow eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. The Confederation had chosen him as their ambassador to Earth specifically because his appearance frightened humans. It was just another small insult in their long campaign of disrespect. "Humans of Earth," Zarthal began, his voice unnaturally deep. "Your petition to join the Galactic Confederation has been reviewed and rejected for the 5th consecutive cycle." Mason clenched his jaw. They had worked for 3 years on the latest application, following every rule and requirement. "Your species lacks the necessary evolutionary advancement to participate in civilized cosmic discourse. Your primitive technology and barbaric military history mark you as dangerous children, unfit for the stars." Around the room, faces hardened. They had heard variations of this speech many times before. Furthermore, the alien continued, "The Confederation Council has decided to extend the quarantine of your system for another 50 Earth years. Your vessels are still forbidden from traveling beyond the orbit of Mars." Mason's hands gripped the railing in front of him so tightly his knuckles turned white. 50 more years of being prisoners in their own solar system. The mining operations on your outer planets will continue under Confederation supervision, as your species has proven incapable of properly utilizing these resources. Translation: they would keep stealing from Earth's solar system while preventing humans from accessing their own resources. This decision is final and not open to appeal. We suggest you use this time to evolve beyond your primitive tendencies. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the control room in silence. "That's the 3rd public humiliation this month," Lieutenant Boyd said, breaking the quiet. Her brown eyes flashed with anger. Mason nodded slowly. "They've been doing this for 15 years. Mocking us, blocking our expansion beyond Mars, restricting our access to resources in our own system. And the world leaders?" Boyd asked. "What's their response?" "The same as always," Mason replied. "They'll send formal protests that the Confederation will ignore. They'll try to negotiate better terms that will never come." He shook his head. "The aliens have all the power and they know it, or at least they thought they did." "Sir," a voice called from across the room, "Dr. Nichols is here from R&D." Mason turned to see Alan Nichols walking toward him, carrying a small black case. The scientist looked tired with dark circles under his eyes, but there was an excitement in his step that Mason hadn't seen before. "You picked a good day to visit, Doctor," Mason said, "just in time for our regular reminder of humanity's place in the galaxy." Nichols gave a thin smile. "Perhaps not for much longer, Admiral." Mason raised an eyebrow. "Let's talk in my office." Once the door closed behind them, Nichols placed the black case on Mason's desk and opened it. Inside was a small metal cube, no bigger than a dice, glowing with a soft blue light. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "The future," Nichols said simply. "Admiral, Project Blindside is ready for demonstration." Mason stared at the scientist. Project Blindside had been in development for 10 years, their greatest secret, their only hope. "You're certain?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir. We completed the final tests last night." Mason's heart beat faster. "The Confederation doesn't know about it?" "No, sir. We built it using exclusively Earth-developed technology. Nothing they would recognize or monitor." Nichols touched the cube gently. "They're so convinced of their superiority. that they only watch for technology similar to their own. They never considered we might find a different path. And it works? All of it? Better than we hoped, Nichols confirmed. The stealth system is perfect. Our ships are invisible to their scanners. The weapons system... He paused, a rare smile crossing his face. Let's just say it exceeds all expectations. Mason walked to the window of his office, looking out at the underground hangar where Earth's official Confederation-approved ships sat. Small, limited vessels that could barely reach Mars. How many ships can we outfit with this technology? He asked. 500 are already complete, Nichols replied. Hidden in facilities around the world. We can have them ready in under a week. Mason turned back to the scientist, a slow smile forming on his face. Then perhaps it's time we showed the galaxy that humanity doesn't take well to being cornered. He picked up his secure phone. Get me the president. Priority Alpha. He paused, then added, tell her Operation Rising Sun is ready. For 15 years, the galaxy had mocked Earth. Soon they would learn that some jokes have deadly punchlines. President Eleanor Winters stood with her arms crossed, staring at the massive underground cavern stretching before her. The secret military base beneath the Nevada desert had been built over 10 years, hidden from both the public and the watchful eyes of the Galactic Confederation. I can't believe you kept this from me for so long, she said, her voice echoing in the enormous space. Chief Engineer Olivia Reeves walked beside the president, her work boots making soft sounds on the metal walkway. She wore simple coveralls, with the Earth Defense Force logo, her red hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Security protocols, Madam President, Olivia explained. Only those directly involved knew the full scope. Even Admiral Mason only learned about this facility last month. President Winters nodded, understanding the need for extreme secrecy. She had been in office for just 6 months, elected on a promise to stand up to the Confederation. But even she hadn't imagined anything like this. How many people work here? She asked, watching the hundreds of technicians and engineers moving purposefully around the vast hangar floor below. 3,000 at this facility, Olivia replied. But we have 5 more bases like this around the world. Over 20,000 people total, all working in complete secrecy. And none of them have leaked anything? Olivia smiled slightly. They all understand what's at stake. Their families have suffered under Confederation restrictions too. Everyone has lost someone to food shortages or medicine rationing. The president nodded grimly. After the Confederation had cut Earth off from space resources, times had been hard. The aliens claimed it was for humanity's own good, but people had died because of these protective measures. They reached the main floor where Admiral Mason waited for them. Madam President, he said with a respectful nod, thank you for coming so quickly. When my military chief tells me we finally have a way to fight back against alien oppression, I don't waste time, she replied. Show me everything. Mason led them toward a large blast door at the far end of the hangar. The Confederation believes we're still struggling with basic fusion technology, he explained as they walked. They have no idea we've been developing, in parallel paths, one public, one completely hidden. The massive door slid open, revealing an even larger chamber beyond. President Winters stopped in her tracks, her eyes widening. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Not the small, limited vessels the Confederation allowed Earth to build, but sleek warships with smooth black hulls that seemed to swallow the light. How many? She whispered. 500 combat-ready vessels with advanced stealth capabilities, Olivia said proudly. Their hulls contain a material that absorbs scanning technology. We've named the flagship the Liberty. A tall man in a captain's uniform approached them. Captain Frank Daniels, Madam President. I'll be commanding the Liberty when we launch. The President shook his hand, noting his confident grip. How did you build all this without the Confederation noticing? They monitor everything we do. That's the beauty of it, Captain Daniels explained. Their surveillance networks focus on detecting their own technology. They never considered we might develop something entirely different. They're so convinced of their superiority, Admiral Mason added, that they only look for copies of their own tech. They expect us to follow their development path, not create our own. The president walked toward the nearest ship, running her hand along its smooth surface. It felt slightly warm to the touch, almost alive. "And weapons?" she asked. "The Confederation removed all our military satellites 15 years ago. Kinetic railguns that operate on principles the aliens don't use," Olivia replied with pride. "Plus our gravitational disruption system. They've never seen anything like it." Captain Daniels nodded. "We studied the debris from their ships after the Mars incident. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, particle beams, but they're surprisingly vulnerable to physical projectiles moving at high speeds." "Simple but effective," the president murmured. "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best," Mason agreed. "The railguns can accelerate metal slugs to near light speed. When something hits a ship at that velocity, no shield can stop the impact." "President." Winters turned slowly, taking in the full scope of the secret fleet. "For 15 years they've treated us like cosmic jesters. They restricted our mining operations, prevented us from establishing colonies beyond Mars, all while extracting resources from our outer system without permission. They take our helium from Jupiter, water from Europa, methane from Titan," Olivia said bitterly, "all while telling us we're not ready to use those resources ourselves." "We've been patient," Captain Daniels added. "We've endured their mockery, their trade restrictions, their technology embargoes. But they mistook patience for weakness." President Winters walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the massive ships towering above her. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on her shoulders. Starting a war against a galactic power was not something to take lightly, but continuing to let her people suffer was not an option either. "How soon can the fleet be ready?" she asked. 24 hours, Admiral Mason replied. "We've been preparing for months. The crews are trained, the ships are fueled, and the weapons are loaded." The president nodded slowly. "Where will you strike first?" "Titan," Captain Daniels said. "The Confederation has a major mining operation there, stealing methane from Saturn's moon. It's lightly defended because they never expected us to reach it." "And after that?" "One step at a time, Madam President," Mason said. "First we show them we're not trapped in our own system anymore. Then we negotiate from a position of strength." President Winters took one last look at the massive fleet before turning back to the officers. "Prepare the fleet," she commanded, her voice firm with resolve. "It's time to show the galaxy that humanity will no longer be denied its place among the stars." As they walked back toward the exit, the president paused. "What will the Confederation do when they realize what we've done?" Admiral Mason's face hardened. "They'll be shocked, then angry. They'll threaten us, try to scare us back into submission. When that fails, they'll attack. And we'll be ready," Captain Daniels added confidently. President Winters nodded. "The galaxy has mocked us for too long. It's time they learned that humans smile just before they strike." Commander Patricia Wells stood on the bridge of the Liberty, her heart beating fast but her face calm. She had trained for this moment for 7 years. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations, each person focused on their tasks. The silence on the bridge was broken only by the soft beeps of computers and the occasional quiet command. "Stealth systems at full power," Lieutenant Ryan Foster reported from the tactical station. His young face looked pale under the blue lights of the bridge. "All ships report ready, Commander." Patricia nodded. "Status of Titan outpost." "The Confederation mining facility is operating at normal capacity," Ryan replied. "No indication they've detected us." Patricia turned to look at the main screen. It showed Saturn's largest moon, Titan, with its thick orange atmosphere. Somewhere on its surface, nearly 1,000 aliens worked at a massive facility, extracting methane from the moon's lakes and sending it back to their worlds, resources that should have belonged to Earth. "Time to decloak," she said, her voice steady. Captain Daniels, standing next to her, gave the order. "All ships, prepare to reveal on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Throughout the bridge, people held their breath. This was the moment of truth. If their stealth technology failed, if the Confederation had somehow detected them during their journey, they would know immediately. On the screen, hundreds of Earth ships suddenly appeared around the moon, surrounding the alien mining operation completely. The ships were arranged in a perfect sphere formation, blocking any escape route. Any reaction from the Confederation outpost? Patricia asked. Ryan checked his readings. They're panicking, Commander. Communication suddenly spiked. They're calling for help. Patricia allowed herself a small smile. The aliens hadn't detected them at all. Earth stealth technology had worked perfectly. Open communication channels, she ordered. A technician pressed several buttons on her console. Channel open, Commander. Patricia straightened her uniform and nodded to Captain Daniels. He stepped forward. This is Captain Frank Daniels of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship Liberty. Attention, Confederation outpost on Titan. You are operating illegally in Earth's sovereign territory. The screen flickered, and the surprised face of a Confederation overseer appeared. The alien had blue-gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible nose or ears. It wore what looked like a ceremonial collar around its thin neck. What is this? The alien demanded in its high-pitched voice. Humans have no authorized vessels beyond Mars. How did you? This is Commander Patricia Wells, Patricia said, stepping forward next to the captain. You are trespassing in Earth's sovereign territory. You have 1 hour to evacuate your personnel. The alien's eyes blinked rapidly in what intelligence had identified as their expression of shock. This is absurd. Your species does not possess the technology to reach Titan with military vessels. The Confederation has not authorized. We are not asking for authorization, Patricia interrupted calmly. We are informing you of our decision. The resources of the Sol system belong to Earth. You have been taking them without our permission for too long. You have 59 minutes remaining to evacuate. After that, we will remove your facility by force. The alien made a strange hissing sound. You primitive creatures dare to threaten the Galactic Confederation? Your pathetic ships cannot possibly stand against. Patricia nodded to the communications officer who cut the transmission. 58 minutes, she said simply. Around the bridge, several crew members smiled. After years of being talked down to by the aliens, it felt good to be the ones giving orders. Captain Daniels turned to Ryan. Lieutenant, monitor their communications. I want to know exactly what they're saying and who they're calling for help. Ryan nodded and focused on his screen. They're sending emergency signals to their nearest military base, sir. Based on our intelligence, that would be their outpost on Neptune's moon Triton. Patricia wasn't surprised. The Confederation had been using Neptune's moons as military bases for years, claiming they were scientific outposts. How long until their reinforcements arrive? She asked. At their fastest speed, approximately 6 hours, Ryan replied. Patricia exchanged looks with Captain Daniels. This was also expected. Their plan accounted for Confederation reinforcements. Battle Group 2, prepare to receive visitors, Daniels ordered through the ship's communication system. Somewhere near Neptune, another fleet of Earth ships waited, in stealth mode, ready to surprise the alien reinforcements. For the next hour, they watched as the Confederation frantically evacuated their facility. Small transport ships rushed from the surface of Titan up to larger vessels in orbit. The aliens were clearly not prepared for such a sudden evacuation. Time's up, Patricia said when the hour had passed. Any remaining Confederation personnel? Ryan checked his instruments. Sensors show about 20 aliens still in the main control center. Give them 15 more minutes, Captain Daniels ordered. We're not here to kill unnecessarily, Patricia agreed. This was about reclaiming Earth's resources, not starting a bloodbath. After the additional time had passed, all aliens had evacuated. Prepare the dismantling teams, Patricia ordered. I want that facility completely taken apart within 4 hours. Teams of specially trained engineers in spacesuits landed on Titan's surface and began methodically disassembling the alien mining operation. Every piece of valuable technology was loaded onto Earth ships. Nothing would be left for the Confederation to reclaim. Commander, Ryan called out suddenly. We're detecting a transmission from the Triton base. They're sending warships, 6 heavy cruisers. Patricia nodded. Right on schedule. Inform Battle Group 2. For the next 5 hours, they worked quickly and efficiently. When the last pieces of the alien facility had been removed or destroyed, Patricia ordered all teams back to the ships. "Prepare for Phase 2, she said. "The Confederation warships will be here soon." The Earth fleet rearranged itself into battle formation, weapons ready but not yet powered. They would not fire first. That was important for what would come later. Almost exactly 6 hours after the initial confrontation, the Confederation warships arrived. 6 massive vessels appeared near Titan, their design sleek and intimidating. Each one was at least twice the size of the Liberty Admiral Kazatalak of the Confederation transmitted a message immediately, his reptilian face filling the main screen. Unlike the facility overseer, this alien made no attempt to hide his fury. "Your primitive deception will be answered with force," he roared. "You have violated Confederation law and attacked a peaceful mining operation. Stand down immediately or be destroyed." Patricia looked at Captain Daniels, who nodded gravely. This was the moment they had prepared for, the real test of their secret technology. Patricia's response was simple. "All ships, weapons free." The battle for Titan had begun. The Galactic Confederation's High Council chamber was in chaos. Over 300 alien representatives from different worlds shouted, hissed, and made various noises in their native languages. Some pounded their appendages on tables while others floated angrily above their seats. The massive room, designed to showcase the Confederation's power and unity, now displayed only confusion and anger. Ambassador John Weber sat calmly at the human delegation's table. Next to him, his assistant Maria Rodriguez watched the scene with wide eyes. This was her first trip to the Confederation capital world, and nothing had prepared her for this level of alien pandemonium. "Is it always like this?" she whispered to Weber. The ambassador shook his head slightly. "No, this is new." He couldn't help feeling a small amount of satisfaction. For decades, Earth had been denied a seat at this table. Now they had taken one by force, and the results were certainly dramatic. At the center of the chamber, Supreme Counselor Ziv Mara, a tall being with shimmering gold skin, finally managed to restore order. The room gradually fell silent as she activated a device that amplified her resonant voice. "This emergency session of the High Council will come to order," she announced. Her species had no visible mouth, but her words seemed to emanate from her entire body. "The recent events in the Sol system require immediate attention." She turned to face the human delegation. Her featureless face somehow still conveyed disapproval. "The human delegation will explain these unprovoked attacks on Confederation assets." John stood, adjusting his formal diplomatic uniform. At 57, he had spent most of his career trying to establish respectful relations with the Confederation. For years he had followed their rules, submitted countless applications for membership, and endured their rejection and mockery. Today was different. Today, he represented an Earth that had finally shown its strength. "Supreme Counselor, honored representatives," he began, his voice measured and calm. "I appreciate the opportunity to address this council." "You were not invited," shouted Representative Tolvac from the Rigelian system. "Humans have no place here." John smiled slightly. "And yet, here we are." The simple statement caused another outbreak of angry shouts. Supreme Counselor Ziv Mara had to restore order again. "Ambassador Weber, please explain your species' aggressive actions," she demanded. John nodded, unprovoked. "For 15 years your Confederation has restricted human development, extracted resources from our system without fair compensation, and publicly humiliated our diplomatic envoys. We simply enforced our sovereign rights within our own star system." "You concealed military technology," accused Representative Tolvac, rising from his seat. The reptilian alien's neck frill expanded in anger. "A violation of transparency protocols." "Protocols that apply to Confederation members," John corrected, keeping his voice calm. "You repeatedly rejected our membership applications. You can't have it both ways. Either we're members bound by your rules, or we're an independent species free to develop as we choose." The chamber fell silent as the logical trap became clear. Many representatives exchanged glances. Furthermore, John continued, reaching into his briefcase, we've compiled evidence of 26 violations of your own non-interference directives regarding developing species. You didn't leave us alone. You actively hindered our growth while exploiting our resources. He placed a data crystal on the table in front of him. This contains detailed documentation of each violation, including the unauthorized mining operations on Titan, Ganymede, and Callisto, the military bases disguised as scientific outposts on Neptune's moons, and the deliberate sabotage of our early Mars colony that resulted in 43 human deaths. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many of the representatives seemed genuinely surprised by these claims. These are serious accusations, Supreme Counselor Zivmara said, but they do not justify military action. We attempted diplomatic solutions for 15 years, John replied. Every petition was denied. Every complaint was dismissed. When peaceful options are exhausted, a sovereign power has the right to defend its interests. In the back of the chamber, General Diane Harris of Earth's military command watched silently. Unlike John and Maria, she wore no diplomatic uniform, but rather the simple gray and blue uniform of Earth's Defense Force. Her orders from President Winters were clear. If diplomacy failed, the second phase of Operation Blindside would commence. The humans had studied their adversaries well. They understood that in the Confederation, respect came before friendship, and sometimes respect had to be taken by force. Your primitive vessels somehow managed to defeat a small outpost, sneered a representative from a warlike species. But you cannot hope to stand against the full might of the Confederation fleet. John smiled again. Perhaps not. But before you commit to that course of action, you should know that Earth vessels are currently positioned near 17 of your most critical military and economic installations throughout Confederation space. This caused immediate uproar. Representatives jumped to their feet shouting questions and demands. Impossible, cried Tolvak. Our defense networks would have detected them. John shrugged. Just as they detected our fleet before it appeared at Titan, or the battle group that defeated your reinforcements at Neptune. The Supreme Counselor's golden skin pulsed with light, a sign of intense emotion for her species. Verify this claim, immediately, she ordered to her aides. While the Confederation officials frantically checked their systems, John continued, We're not here to seek war. We're here to negotiate a new relationship, as equals, not as subjects. Earth controls its system now. That's non-negotiable, but we remain open to peaceful cooperation. An aide rushed to the Supreme Counselor and whispered something. Her skin flickered rapidly. We have confirmed unusual energy readings near several key locations, she admitted reluctantly. They appear to match the signature of the human vessels observed at Titan. The chamber grew quiet. The threat was real. So, John said into the silence, shall we discuss new terms? Or shall we continue the unfortunate conflict that began at Titan? Representative Tolvak hissed in anger. This is blackmail. This is negotiation from a position of strength, John corrected. Something your Confederation understands well given how you've treated us for 15 years. The Supreme Counselor conferred quietly with several other high-ranking representatives. Finally, she turned back to face the human delegation. The High Council will need time to consider this new situation, she said carefully. We will adjourn for 12 standard hours. The human delegation will remain on the station but may return to their vessel. John nodded respectfully. We look forward to continuing our discussion. As the humans left the chamber, Maria leaned close to John. Do you think it worked? They're talking to us instead of attacking, he replied quietly. That's a start. General Harris fell into step beside them. We should prepare for all possibilities. The fleet is ready to execute Phase 2 if necessary. John nodded gravely. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, he didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what would happen if diplomacy failed. The hidden Earth ships would strike simultaneously across Confederation space, demonstrating that nowhere was safe from the species they had mocked for so long. The humans had studied the Confederation carefully over the years. They understood. that in this galactic society, respect came before friendship, and sometimes respect had to be taken by force. 1 year later, Admiral Gregory Mason stood on the observation deck of Earth's new orbital headquarters. The massive space station named Unity hung in orbit above Earth, its curved windows providing a spectacular view of the planet below. Mason watched as shuttles from 17 alien worlds docked at various ports around the station's outer ring. "Did you ever think you'd see this day?" asked President Winters, joining him at the viewport. She looked tired, but satisfied, the stress of the past year visible in the new lines on her face. "Honestly? No," Mason admitted, shaking his head slightly. "When we started Project Blindside, I expected either continued isolation or all-out war. I never imagined this." Below them, Earth gleamed blue and green against the blackness of space. Around it, construction platforms built new vessels and habitats with both human and alien technology. Workers in spacesuits moved between projects, some human, some distinctly not. The Trilaxians are requesting permission to establish a permanent embassy on the station, President Winters said, looking down at her tablet. "That makes 23 species that want formal relations with Earth now." Mason smiled. "Amazing how quickly attitudes change when you prove you're not an easy target." Commander Samantha Boyd approached them, saluting smartly. "Admiral, Madam President, the Confederation delegation has arrived for the signing ceremony." "Thank you." "Commander," the President replied. "How are they behaving?" Boyd's lips twitched slightly. "Respectfully, ma'am. Very respectfully." "They respected strength all along," said Mason, turning away from the viewport. "Not just military strength, but the strength of will to stand up for ourselves." The three of them walked through the gleaming corridors of the station toward the main conference hall. Station personnel and visiting aliens moved aside, nodding respectfully as they passed. Dr. Nichols's psychological profile was correct, President Winters noted. The Confederation evolved from predator species that only respect those who can defend themselves. Our willingness to endure mockery was seen as weakness, not patience. They reached the large doors of the conference hall where representatives from 40 different worlds waited inside. Among them was Zarthal, the same Confederation ambassador who had once sneered at humanity. Now he moved with careful deference, his former arrogance completely gone. Before entering, Mason paused. "The most remarkable outcome is that we've actually created a more stable galactic community. 7 other developing worlds have been granted autonomy over their systems since our stand. And the new trading agreements have benefits for everyone," added the President. "Even the Confederation is seeing economic growth now that they're not spending all their resources keeping others down." Commander Boyd nodded. "Who would have thought that treating other species as equals could be good for everyone?" President Winters straightened her formal jacket. "Ready to make history, Admiral?" Mason nodded firmly. "After 15 years of being cosmic jesters, I think we've earned this moment." They entered the conference hall to applause from the assembled delegates. On the central table lay the newly drafted Galactic Charter of Rights, a document that would replace the old Confederation's rules with a more equal system of governance. Earth had insisted on its creation as part of the peace agreement. As Mason took his place at the table, he scanned the room filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some looked almost human, others were utterly alien. Floating gas sacks, crystalline, structures and things that defied easy description. Yet here they all were, gathering as equals for the first time. The galaxy had indeed mocked Earth, until humanity smiled and opened fire. Now, a new era of genuine cooperation could begin, founded on mutual respect rather than intimidation. Mason picked up his pen to sign the charter, feeling the weight of the moment. Human ingenuity had accomplished what no other species had dared. They had transformed from cosmic jesters to equal partners in a single, decisive move, forever changing the balance of power among the stars, and they had done it without losing their humanity along the way.